The Sumerians believed the sky was solid, not empty, not infinite, solid. A dome, pressing down above the earth, holding back an ocean of water above it, an ocean so vast, so heavy, that if the dome ever cracked, nothing on the surface would survive. They pressed this belief into clay tablets 4,000 years ago, and they described, in specific detail, what happens when the dome breaks, what the sky looks like when it fails, what the water does when it comes through, what the earth becomes in the hours after. And then, they described a year, a specific catastrophe, a real event, that matched everything they had written about what happens when the dome cracks. That year, according to the best evidence science has, was approximately 10,800 BCE, and the evidence for what happened is still in the ground. Welcome to the Shadow Ancestral. This channel covers the documented evidence that mainstream history leaves on the shelf. Every claim sourced, every fact verifiable. Tonight we go inside the Sumerian understanding of the sky and the catastrophe they believed had already happened once before. Subscribe right now if you are new here. Hit the notification bell, because what we cover on this channel goes deeper every single week. Now, let us start with the dome. To understand the dome, you need to understand how the Sumerians saw the universe. It was not what we see today when we look up at the sky. For the Sumerians and the Babylonians who inherited their knowledge, the universe had a specific, documented structure. At the bottom, the Apsu, the underground freshwater ocean, the domain of Enki, from which all rivers and springs flowed. Above that, the earth itself, flat, circular, like an overturned boat floating on water. Above the earth, a region of air and wind, the domain of Enlil, and above that, the dome. The dome of heaven, called An in Sumerian, solid, real, physical, not a metaphor, not a symbol, a structure. And above the dome, pressing down on it from above, another ocean, a heavenly ocean, vast, cold, dark, held in place only by the solid dome beneath it. This is documented in Babylonian cuneiform scholarship, specifically in the work of scholar Leonard King, who wrote in his documented analysis of Babylonian religion. Above the dome of heaven was another mass of water, a heavenly ocean, which the solid dome of heaven supported and kept in its place, so that it might not break through and flood the earth. The dome was not decoration. The dome was protection, the only thing standing between humanity and an ocean pressing down from above. And the Sumerians knew, from their oldest texts, that it had failed before. The dome was not seamless. The Sumerians and Babylonians documented specific openings in it, called the windows of heaven, or, in some texts, the gates of heaven. The dome was not seamless. The Sumerians and Babylonians documented specific openings in it, called the windows of heaven, or, in some texts, the gates of heaven. Documented in ancient Near Eastern cosmological texts, and referenced in the Wikipedia entry on the Firmament, drawing on scholar Francesca Rochberg's research, these windows existed on the eastern and western horizons. They allowed the sun god Shamash to pass through each day, entering at dawn through the eastern gate, exiting at dusk through the western one. But the windows served another purpose in the flood texts. When the gods decided to send the flood, the windows of heaven were opened, not cracked, not broken, deliberately opened, and the heavenly ocean above the dome poured through. The Genesis account, which scholars agree drew directly from the Sumerian and Babylonian tradition, preserved this exact detail. In the 6th chapter of Genesis, the flood begins with these words: "The floodgates of the heavens were opened." Floodgates, not rain clouds, not a storm front. Floodgates, because in the original tradition, the one that Genesis was built on, the water did not come from clouds, it came from above the dome, through gates that the gods had opened. And in the tablets, there is a darker version of this story, one where the gates were not opened deliberately, one where the dome cracked. Tablet 11 of the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the most complete flood accounts in the entire ancient Near Eastern tradition, describes what happened when the dome broke. It is held in the British Museum, translated by Andrew George, the same scholar who translated the Omen tablets we covered last episode. The tablet describes the moment the flood began with these words: "As soon as the first light of dawn appeared, a black cloud came up from the horizon. Adad rumbled inside it. The gods Shulat and Hanish went in front, moving as heralds over hill and plain. Erekal pulled out the mooring poles. Ninurta went, making the weirs overflow. The Anunnaki lifted their torches, setting the land ablaze with their flare. Consternation over Adad reached to the heavens, who turned to blackness all that had been light." Read that again carefully. The Anunnaki, the great gods themselves, lifted torches and set the land ablaze. The sky turned black, not from rain clouds, from something that burned as it fell. And then, the dome description. The noise of the deluge, its power came upon the people like a battle. No one could see his fellow. The people could not be recognized in the catastrophe. Even the gods were frightened by the deluge. Even the gods were frightened, not in control, not executing a plan. Frightened, as if something had happened that exceeded what they had intended, as if the dome had not just been opened, but had broken. We are at the halfway point, and what comes next is the part that connects the Sumerian dome to real, physical evidence still being excavated from the ground today. Subscribe to the Shadow Ancestral right now. Every episode on this channel is built from sources you can verify yourself. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Now, back to the dome. Now we reach the science. Because what the Sumerians described, a catastrophe from above, fire in the sky, the heavenly ocean breaking through, everything going dark, matches a real, documented geological event. Approximately 12,800 years ago, around 10,800 BCE, the Earth went through a period called the Younger Dryas, a sudden catastrophic climate shift. Average temperatures dropped by as much as 10 to 15 degrees Celsius in just decades. Ice sheets that had been retreating advanced again. Entire ecosystems collapsed. Megafauna, mammoths, mastodons, giant ground sloths, dire wolves, went extinct. The official explanation for what triggered it has been debated by scientists for decades. But in 2007, a team of researchers published a paper proposing something that has not gone away despite significant scientific controversy: a cosmic impact, or a series of airbursts, cometary fragments, striking the Laurentide ice sheet over North America. The proposed impact, or airburst, would have done exactly what the Gilgamesh tablet describes. Fire from the sky, the land set ablaze, darkness following, the ice sheet destabilizing, releasing vast quantities of meltwater into the North Atlantic, disrupting ocean circulation, triggering the climate catastrophe. And the water. As the ice sheets collapsed, sea levels rose by as much as 120 meters globally over the following millennia. Coastlines were swallowed, river deltas disappeared. The land between the rivers, Mesopotamia itself, was flooded repeatedly. To a civilization living along those rivers, watching the water rise, seeing fire fall from the sky before it all began, what would that look like? It would look like the dome had cracked. The heavenly ocean had broken through, and the gods, even the gods, were frightened. Here is what makes this story impossible to dismiss. In 1929, British archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley was excavating the ancient Sumerian city of Ur, in what is now southern Iraq. He was digging through occupation layers, layer after layer of human habitation, going deeper and deeper back in time. And then he hit something, a layer of clean silt, no artifacts, no pottery shards, no evidence of human activity, just clean, water-deposited silt, approximately 2.5 meters deep. Below that silt, more human habitation, more occupation layers, more artifacts, more evidence of people who had lived there before the water came. Woolley called his wife over. He pointed at the silt layer, and he said, "Well, there it is. The flood layer, not metaphorical, not mythological, physical, in the ground, at Ur." Similar flood deposits have since been found at multiple ancient Mesopotamian sites, Shuruppak, Kish, Nineveh, though scholars debate whether they represent the same event or different regional floods. But the point remains. The Sumerians were not inventing the flood from nothing. They were recording something that had happened to their ancestors, something real enough to leave a physical layer in the ground, something that, from where they stood, looked exactly like what their tablets described. The dome had cracked. Here is the question nobody asks. If the flood was caused by a cosmic impact, by fire from above, by the destabilization of ice sheets, why did the Sumerians describe it as the dome cracking, as the windows of heaven opening, as the gods deliberately unleashing the water? Because they had no other framework. Enlil's primary temple at Nippur, the Ikur, was described in Sumerian texts as the mooring rope of heaven and earth, the physical connection between the dome above and the ground below. The ziggurat, the great stepped temple, was not just architecture. It was a cosmic pillar, holding the dome in place, connecting the world of humans to the world of gods. When fire fell from the sky, when water rose from every direction, when the darkness came, the Sumerians understood it through the only cosmology they had. The dome had been compromised. The heavenly ocean had come through. The gods had done this, or allowed it, or been powerless to stop it. And they pressed the memory into clay so that every generation after them would know. This had happened before. The dome had cracked before, and the pattern, pressed into the king list, the Atrahasis tablets, the Omen texts, suggested it could happen again. The Ekur, Enlil's temple, was described in the hymn to Enlil documented in Penn Museum Tablet CBES 8317 as the place where, without the Ekur, no city would be founded, no settlement built. The temple was not just worship, it was the thing holding the sky together. And when it eventually fell, when Nippur was sacked, when the Ikur was destroyed, the Sumerians wrote laments about the sky being unmoored, about the dome having nothing left to hold it. The Sumerians did not just record the past. They encoded a warning inside the cosmology. If the dome was real, and it had cracked before, then the question was not whether it would crack again. The question was when. The Omen tablets we covered last episode, the ones translated in 2024 in the Journal of Cuneiform Studies, were part of a larger system. A system built to watch the sky for signs that the dome was under stress. Lunar eclipses, planetary alignments, comets, all of them, signals, all of them, watched by advisors whose entire purpose was to warn the king before the next crack appeared. The Sumerians were not primitive people who could not understand the cosmos. They were the first people who understood it well enough to be afraid of it, and to build a system for watching it. That system, pressed into tens of thousands of clay tablets sitting in museums right now, is still speaking. The dome held last time, after the crack, after the water, after the darkness. It held, and the Sumerians rebuilt, and they wrote down everything they knew about what the sky looked like before it happened, so that whoever came next would have enough warning to build the boat before the water came. The Sumerians believed the sky was solid, that it held back an ocean above us, that it had cracked before, and that what came through had erased everything that existed before them. The geological record has a flood layer in it. The ice cores have a catastrophe marker in them. The megafauna went extinct. The coastlines were swallowed. Something happened approximately 12,800 years ago that matched what the Sumerians described as the dome cracking. Whether you call it a cosmic impact, a climate catastrophe, or what the Sumerians called it, the windows of heaven opening, the physical evidence says it happened. The tablets say it can happen again. If this video opened something in you, subscribe to the Shadow Ancestral right now. Leave a comment. Do you think the dome the Sumerians described was a cosmological belief, or a memory of something real? Share this with someone who has never looked up at the sky and wondered what is above it. Next week, we open the tablet that describes what the gods said about us when they thought no one was listening, what they called the human race, what they said we were built for, and the one line in the text that no mainstream scholar wants to read out loud. The shadow has more to show you. Watch the dome while it holds.